either. Are we on? All right. Well, good morning. We're ready for Sunday school this morning. I see Joshua's back on the job, so good to have him here today. If you want to join me in the book of Matthew, chapter 16, we're going to go from there to Matthew chapter 24 because I want to talk about the signs of the times. It's one of those things that's easy to talk about is around us and the things that are on the news. And here in Matthew chapter 16, we look at verses 1, 2, and 3. It says that he's also desired him that he would show them a sign from heaven. For the sky is red and lowering. O you hypocrites! You can discern the face of the sky, but can you not discern the signs of the times? I always enjoyed that verse because even today we have that saying that, red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky in the morning, sailors take warning. The sign itself is been around for a long time, obviously. So when we talk about signs, there's things that happen slowly and we don't always see them developing. There's a lot of changes have gone on in our country and in our government and in our culture. Some of it's happened slowly. We can look back and say, boy, we should have said something quicker, we should have acted sooner, but all of a sudden it's on you. So let's go to Matthew chapter 24. We'll begin with verse 3. The disciples would face in their lifetime and things that would lead up to the end of the words spoken of here. First in verse 3, they were looking at and all the surroundings there in Jerusalem. And in verse 3, disciples came unto him privately, saying, "Tell us the end times." In 1948, when Israel became a state, it was one that people turned to quite first generation Israel. Well, not quite 80, 75 years. So let's see, we'll make it more dramatic, and they will emphasize things that maybe shouldn't be emphasized, and they will make proclamations that may not come true. But Jesus did give many signs to look for. And let's read next, continue right here and go from verses 4 to verse 8. They asked him in verse 3, what will be the signs? And Jesus, take heed that no man deceive you. That's just the first. It's something that we need to take seriously, and I think Christians have that. Take no man deceive you. For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not afraid or troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. There's going to be deception. There's going to be things presented as true that aren't. Presented as honest and above board, and yet there's something going on in the background. There's going to be wars. There's always been wars. But this seems to be a more universal situation. I mean, there's always turmoil somewhere on the globe, but he's talking basically to them about their territory, their lands, they're surrounded by their enemies. There's going to be conflict between nations and tribes. I think the conflict we see, call it political conflict between one side and the other, call it racial conflict, call it diversity. In the matter of diversity, people are turned against each other. There's conflict among people groups. There's going to be famine, pestilences. A pestilence is defined as a sudden and fatal epidemic type of disease. You could think of COVID as an epidemic or as a pestilence. Without going any further, that's just it relates more to things like the bubonic plague, where it's just massive casualties. Talking about earthquakes in diverse places. And these are just the beginning of sorrows. We're just getting started. But he said, take heed that no man deceive you. There's going to be deception. Verse 11, Joshua, if you would look at verse 11 here, it also refers to deception. And it says, many false prophets shall arise and shall deceive many. Deception it's a major topic when we talk about the signs of the times. I got a security update at work. Most companies are dealing with security issues, protecting their documents, protecting their computer systems, protecting, protecting their business and being corrupted or stolen. And so our security department will send out updates month to month and tell you to think about this. And it gave an example, and I don't know that it's true, but a woman who was typing in she thought she was logging on to her bank website, and she missed, hit the wrong letter or something, and came up with an alert right away that, your account's been compromised. And the story is that she asked, they said they could protect what was being done, and it also affected her savings account and her other accounts that they had, and they said, we can protect that too. And when it's all said and done, it was all fake, and it was all taken from her. Now, I think it was just a story. It presented itself as something that could happen. But on my job, we get emails from the company every day, and work assignments and such, and the security will put out phishing attempts. They'll present something like, "Oh, Ron, you're your information's not up to date. You need to click here and update. Things like that. And they have a program. It's spelled like Fox Hunt, but it's H-O-X. And so people call it Hawks Hunt, but I think it means hoax hunt. And so you click on, say, check, this is a phishing thing. They want you to be alert and be looking for attempts to get you to click on something that you're not supposed to. So people are, we know there's a lot of deceivers. There's a lot of swindlers and cheats and stuff. Take heed that no man deceive you. We like to watch Andy Griffith, and there's a program about the barber, Floyd the barber. And the episode's called Floyd the Gay Deceiver, which, of course, in 1960, gay meant happy, lively, fun guy. He had been a pen pal with this lady, and he got to bragging about his chain of barber shops, and he was wealthy, and so he found out she's coming to visit him, and he's ready to leave town. And Andy says, "No, we can let you meet her. That's, you don't want to run away." And so there's a gentleman in town who's on vacation, and you get to use his house. And Andy presents himself as Floyd's son, and Aunt Bee is the maid, and they're making him look rich. And the woman pulls up in this big convertible Lincoln Continental or something, and he freaks out. He says, "You got to tell her that, this is just my mistake, and I shouldn't, I was bragging." And so Andy sits down with her. So I got to tell you something. So I'm not really his son. I'm the sheriff here. And she goes, "Oh, sheriff. Well, I didn't really do anything. I was just pretending." So it turned out she was a phony too. And it's funny. But that's been going on forever. I mean, dating sites and meet this person, and they've got glamour shots, and they self-evaluate about how great they are. There's always been deception. There's always been people who present themselves differently than what they really are. But it's become a business now. You got persons called social influencers. People who get a lot of following on social websites, and they spend their time pushing products, and some of them even get hired to do that, because they're successful. So we find on social media all kinds of ways to promote products, clothing styles, and that's fine. I mean, people sell their product. But what's coming on the line now is things like AI. I've got notes on a couple different pages. Artificial intelligence, teaching computers to reproduce lifelike characteristics of people. Even what we call deep fakes, where it looks like a political person or a celebrity is saying something they never really said. AI is supposed to be the ability of a computer to do things that can normally be done by humans. Think of Ask Alexa or Ask Google. What does this mean? Or show me an image of this. We don't have to get into an encyclopedia and thumb through it to find what we want. We can ask for it. Well, that can be very helpful, but it also can be very deceiving. It's advanced from Ask Alexa to play a song. It's advanced to sitting in a car and reading a book while the car drives itself. We're there now. I mean, that's shocking how quickly that has shown up. I was in Marysville, and I was trying to get a key from the meter reading department, and the girl who was in charge, she was there, and she said she could meet me there at the office. So I call her and I said, "Hey, I'm heading for your office or whatever." And she says, "Yeah, I'll be there in about 10 minutes. I've got I'm doing something. I said, well, if you're driving, I won't talk. She said, that's okay. So she was just riding in the car while it was driving itself. So that's AI is advancing quickly. The other one is, I think Jonathan mentioned it Wednesday about Chat GPT, it's called, where I think we have some of that we deal with when if you have a tech problem or I called into a medical place to pay a bill. And so they have a voice saying, you can use our automated system, and you just punch in a number or speak the number. That's sort of like AI. I mean, it's like a teller dealing with you, but it's an automated system. And that can be very helpful, where the computer or the machine learns to do things it wasn't taught, that it understands or it can comprehend things that have to be done and teach itself on how to do it. It starts getting spooky. I mean, spookier than what it already is. And when you talk about deception, I think there's going to be a lot of deception in things like that we need to be thinking about. There's a song I thought of that we used to sing as children. Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, eyes, what you see. The Father up above is looking down in love, I think is what it was. So be careful, eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear. Be careful, little hands, what you do, and be careful, little feet, where you go. So we are concerned about our children. We're concerned about our young people because they have in their hands a phone, tablet. They have things where they can connect to anybody in the world. Now, it's bad enough when an elderly person gets a phone call that they need to send money to this Nigerian prince or something, and or help him handle his money, and deception. It happens all the time. But what are our kids hearing? What are our young people seeing? What are they being taught? What are they being influenced by? I don't think the danger has been ever greater than what we see. With AI, there are some restaurants where you put in your order and a little machine rolls down the aisle and brings your order to you. I don't think it's widespread, but it's beginning to happen. There are virtual worlds that people can recreate in, with a, what do you call it, what's it called? Virtual reality, VR. I think 3D, but it's more than 3D. Virtual reality. You remember the shows, the Star Trek, The Next Generation, where they had the holodeck? It was like a hologram of any place you wanted to be. You'd punch in a program, and it could be a vacation site. You could be out in the woods, or you could be in some type of interaction with other people, like going to a party or in a bar or whatever, fighting or playing game. I mean, we've seen it in entertainment, but we can see it actually coming to pass. There's warnings of deception. What worries me is how our country is being dismantled in a way that seems to be, at least when you hear certain people speak, that if AI, if robotics progresses much more, there's going to be millions of people that won't have a job to go to because it's going to be done by a machine or by a computer or by robotics. And we're going to have to deal with people who don't go to work anymore. You listen to some futurists, and they say that the government will have to provide a minimum income. You may not have a big house anymore, but for entertainment, you can put on your virtual reality, and you can choose your avatar, your person, and you can interact with people, and you can enjoy the pleasures of life, sports, anything, just remotely through electronics. I don't know how far that's going to go, but I know that we deal with a great deceptor, and he is prepared to do things that we've not been prepared for. To me, when the Bible talks about deception, what's the verse? Matthew 24:24. I'll go to that next, Joshua. I think that's the one that Pastor refers to. Yes. Matthew 24:24 says that, "For there shall arise false Christs," and that doesn't mean they're going to call themselves Jesus the Christ, but false messiahs, false leaders who seem to have all the answers. "There shall arise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders," miracles. They're going to be able to do so much that if it were possible, they would deceive the very elect. And that's, when you think about deception, I'm thinking about spiritual truth or a biblical understanding, and people reading Bibles that are basically somebody else's, not translation, but their interpretation, and so they can be. I'm thinking that kind of deception you can stay away from, but we don't know how deceptive some things can be. I looked up on Google. I looked up what I call it, the deep fakes, and they'll show a side by side of the real person speaking and another person speaking, and they had a character. What's his name? He's saying, I can't think who. George Kennedy. I'm just going to say George Kennedy. "Hi, this is not George Kennedy." And you say, and it looks like the very person that you think it is speaks like the very person you think it is, and yet it's a it's deceivable. We don't know the deceptions that we will face. But let's go to, I'm about ready to be done here, but go to the book of Revelation, chapter 13, please. Revelation 13 is the appearance of the Antichrist. We're going to go down to verse 11 to begin with. In the book of Revelation, it talks about the beast, the Antichrist, referred to as the beast, and it refers to the number of the name. Do you remember some of the things that were brought out earlier years about the 666 number? I remember when JFK was shot in the head, and hearing, I think it was my own dad talking about it, about the Antichrist. One of these, you're going to have a deadly wound in the head. Yeah, well, it's one of 7 heads. JFK didn't have 6 other heads. There's some symbolism we have to remember. I was looking up this morning. I remember talking about 666. That the Pope wears a hat, and on it, in Latin it says the Vicar of the Son of God. My doctor calling me today. And it's written in Latin, and the Latin letters, if you take the V's and the I's and the D and the L, it adds up to 666, the Latin letters. I always thought that was interesting. But, we also had people that said that Ronald Reagan could be the Antichrist, because his first name, Ronald, middle name Wilson, third name Reagan. 6 letters in each. Ooh, that's 666. There's been so much stupidity about some of this stuff that I remember when barcode came out. Barcodes have changed, but the original one had 2 lines at the beginning, 2 lines in the middle, and 2 lines at the end that were longer than the other lines. And those 2 lines are the symbol for 6. So somebody designed them to say 666, just maybe for fun, I don't know. Some things we won't know until it actually happens. But let's read in Revelation 13. Read verses 11 to 15, because this makes me think. This makes me wonder. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. He does miraculous things, great wonders. It's going to be very effective. And he deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by means of the miracles which he had the power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast which had the wound of a sword and did live. And he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. In our generation, in this century, we can understand how that can happen. We could see how some creature, some idol, some image could be made to live or seem to live and speak and move and do miraculous things. It's a time of great deception. It was easier for me to discount the danger of deception before some of these things come to pass. But we need to be cautious. I really don't have anything to wrap up with except the word that Pastor gave us on Wednesday night from Galatians 5:25. If we live in the Spirit, let us walk in the Spirit. I don't know if I quoted it properly. Galatians is before Ephesians. Galatians 5:25. If we live in the Spirit, let us also walk in the Spirit. It's a day for us to not take things lightly, not to trust our own senses, our own knowledge, our own abilities. It's a time that we really need to walk in the Spirit. There are dangers around, and our world is more, it may not be much more dangerous than it used to be. It's just more out in the open. It's apparent. It's not easy to ignore or miss. There are dangers in many areas. That's really my lesson for today. Anybody want to add something? All right. This subject it's scriptural. We don't ignore it. It's not a time to make things more dramatic than they actually are, or try to make them seem attractive by speaking about them. But there are warnings Jesus gave many times about the things that would come upon the earth and come upon His church, and how we needed to be aware of what's coming in the world. So let's just make it part of. I'm probably not telling anybody anything they haven't heard, but or understood. But we need to be alert. We need to be awake. What's that scripture? Walk circumspectly, be sober, be vigilant. That's it. Thank you.